Well, hello everyone. This is Gregory Zelfand, and let's get started with how to build an intranet portal in SharePoint Webinar. So before we begin, just a couple of very brief announcements. First thing I want to mention is that I will be doing a lot of demos today, and all the demos and screenshots that you will see are based off SharePoint Online environment. Now, for those of you who are using on-premises version of SharePoint and older version of SharePoint, don't worry. Most of the functionality I will be showing you today, you can achieve it in your environments as well. With that being said, we are actually living kind of through a very interesting year as far as SharePoint is concerned, and I'm sure you have seen the changes already. For those of you who are in SharePoint Online, this year Microsoft is making quite a number of changes to the look and feel of SharePoint, to the look and feel of SharePoint document libraries and lists. So just in case, for those of you who are in SharePoint Online, just in case if what I'm going to show you just doesn't look quite the way it looks in your environment, don't worry. I know Microsoft is rolling out those changes throughout this year, so you will see those changes sooner or later. Also, just a couple of more notes. I do have a slide deck that you can download. I have the slide deck right now on the screen, and you can download it at any point during the next hour. It's yours to keep. The slide deck contains pretty much a lot of, a number of screenshots I will be showing you today, as well as URLs, links to some of my blog posts that you can later visit that will explain to you how to achieve some of the things I will be showing you today. You can download the slide deck by going into Handouts section in your control panel and just clicking on it and downloading it at any time during the next hour. Also, today's session is pretty much full, sold out, so that means that everyone is on mute. However, I do want to keep this session informal. So if you do have a question at any point during the webinar, just type your question into the chat window, and I will do my best to answer the question during the session. You can also, we will have about 10-minute, hopefully, Q&A session, dedicated Q&A session toward the end. So you can also ask your question there. And lastly, if you're a shy person and maybe you don't want to ask your question during the session, I will be providing my email information at the very end, and you can just send me an email, and I'm pretty good as far as responding to emails. All right. Okay, just once again, folks, a reminder, feel free to type your question into the chat window as we proceed. Okay, let's get started. So let me first introduce myself in case you have not attended my previous webinars or training sessions. My name is Gregory Zelfand. I'm an independent SharePoint consultant. Have been using SharePoint for more than 10 years. I'm a big advocate of SharePoint and Office 365. I have my own blog site, which I blog quite a bit about SharePoint and best practices, tips and tricks. So I will be providing that information towards the end, my contact information that is. And the way I differentiate myself from the competition is kind of one unique thing about me is that everything that I do in SharePoint for my clients is out of the box. That means that I do not utilize any third-party tools. I do not utilize any coding. I pretty much just extend native SharePoint functionality when I configure intranet portals and different types of sites for my clients. And obviously today's topic, as the name implies, everything you're going to see today has been built out of the box. And what I do for a living, I own my own consulting company, SharePointMaven.com, and I help organizations migrate to SharePoint and Office 365. I consult organizations on best practices, and of course I do lots and lots of training. And I will, at the very end, I will talk about some of the training that I do as well. All right, so here's the agenda for today. We'll first talk about the intranet portal objectives, why an organization might need an intranet portal. So we'll talk about that. We'll then talk about the basic elements, the main elements of intranet portal, the necessary elements of intranet portal. We'll spend majority of time, obviously, right here. I will be showing you and doing a demo on different types of sites that you can build in your intranet. As I said, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end. All right, so let's start, with the first, question that you need to answer. And literally, this is the first question that I ask my clients. Sometimes they might reach out to me and say, well, we need to collaborate. We need to build an Intranet portal. And my first question to them is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? What does Intranet mean to you? Because it does mean different things to many organizations. For example, are you just trying to move your documents to SharePoint? Are you just trying to essentially build a document management system in SharePoint? Or maybe you need you have a need for different department sites or your different divisions so people can collaborate. Or maybe if you're into project management, and many organizations are these days, if you need something where you can manage projects, maybe you need to build project sites. Maybe you need to build some sort of knowledge system using wiki library. Or maybe what you're trying to achieve is pretty much put all your, move everything into kind of one location, have one-stop shop for all your employees instead of having 10 different systems. So it could be a combination of these things, but once again, it's very, very important before you create a new site in your sub-site, in your intranet, in your SharePoint environment, you really need to answer what is the problem you're trying to solve, what kind of sites do you really need. And here are the important things to keep in mind. First, before you build SharePoint intranet, SharePoint-based intranet, SharePoint maturity within your organization. If it's one thing if your organization has been maybe using older versions of SharePoint, but if SharePoint is something new, maybe you need to start kind of easy and start with basic things for your intranet. Maybe first build few collaboration sites, kind of slowly introduce your audience, your employees to SharePoint. So SharePoint maturity does matter when you build an Intranet portal. You also need to know your audience. Who are going to be the people? And I mean, obviously it's going to be most likely your employees, but what are their technical, what are their skills? What is their technical level? It's one thing if you are maybe introducing a new technology to early adopters, tech-savvy early adopters who want to see the next, who are anxious to see the next exciting thing. But it's another thing if you're introducing it to folks who have been using folders for 25 years and who will continue to use folders for the rest of their lives. So you really need to know your audience. Or maybe you are designing sites for collaboration with external users, and you really need to make those sites extremely easy to navigate and search in, because you will be dealing with audience who are not really your employees. And at the end of the day, another thing to keep in mind is user adoption and training. And this is extremely critical, and I will be talking and repeating these words throughout this webinar. But user adoption and training is the most important factor. This is how the SharePoint looks out of the box. It's your job, and I think you would agree with me, without any configuration, it's just not usable. It's your goal to make it into something like this. It's your goal to make it user-friendly. It's your goal to make an easy, to build the necessary search mechanisms, to build easy navigation, to brand it so your employees will come back to it and would want to use it. All right, so I will come back obviously to the demo, but before we do that, so why SharePoint? And in my opinion, I'm obviously biased, but in my opinion, SharePoint and specifically Office 365 really brings it all together. In my opinion, this is a perfect platform for SharePoint, for your intranet. And let me explain and prove to you why that is. So let's look at the typical example, and I think you will be able to relate to your particular organizations, but I just put kind of together a list of what I observed when I work with my clients. But like I said, I think you will be able to relate to this. It's quite possible that maybe you already have some sort of intranet using third-party tools. Maybe not. It's quite possible that And most likely that is the case that you're managing your files on file shares on some network drives within the company firewall. If you need to do external sharing, I see a lot of users just getting their own Dropbox accounts or something, or Box accounts or any other third-party sharing apps, and just putting the content in there. If you are managing projects, you might be using some third-party project management tools. You might have a separate application for maybe some processes within your organization, like HR and onboarding. You might be storing your employee directory in Excel files that circulate around the office. And you might be managing your customers in Excel. And once again, maybe some things will apply to you in your organization, some might not, but hopefully you can relate to this list. And this is very typical. But at the end of the day, what SharePoint allows you to do is bring it all under one roof. And as we do the demo today, I will actually go through each of these points and show you the examples of all this, sites, of all these functionalities that you can build in SharePoint. If SharePoint and specifically Office 365 allow you to do, instead of having all these separate applications, instead of having separate file share to manage internal files, instead of having a separate Dropbox account to manage externally shared documents, instead of having a third-party project management application, you can have it all under one roof in your SharePoint intranet, essentially. And once again, we'll do the live demo in a second. So before I do that, let me first concentrate on the three basic, elements of intranet. And maybe in your case it might be more, but I just decided to kind of break it down into this three distinct groups. And on the following slide, I'll explain what each of them means. So the first basic element is company culture content. So you might have content related to your company culture. And once again, let's hold off for a second. I'll come back to what this means on the following slide. The second major element is collaboration content. So that's content related to the collaboration that you will be doing. And the third major element is usability. Once again, I keep repeating myself, usability and user adoption. So let me explain each of these elements. The company culture content has nothing to do, so that's the first element. It has nothing to do with kind of collaboration, exchange of files, et cetera, et cetera. It has to do with what defines your organization. What defines your organization, what defines your company culture. And in some cases, it's obviously your own branding. It's kind of social kind of aspect to the content and information, like news and announcements, maybe a common calendar of events, some sort of org chart, company contacts, maybe some pictures from latest barbecues, videos, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of company culture. Once again, this is not really the crux of collaboration. This is mostly what defines your organization. All right. The second element is the collaboration content, and that is kind of the major centerpiece, if you will. This is where stuff happens. This is where business happens. And obviously, the example of this content would be some sort of department sites, project sites, team sites, essentially the sites where you exchange the actual information, where you conduct your business in. And I'll go through the samples of those sites in a second. And the last and very important piece is usability. At the end of the day, you can have, 20, 30, 150 sites in your environment. You do want the content to be found easily. You don't want people to search and scratch their heads where the content will reside. So at the end of the day, I keep once again repeating myself, but it's all about usability, and this is the third most important element. You do want to build friendly navigation. You do want to build a friendly search. You want to have some social media, social aspects to your collaboration, and of course, you also want to build in consistent branding. These are kind of the elements some of the elements that make up for successful user adoption. All right, let's switch right to the demo. And folks, once again, if you do have a question, do not hesitate to just interrupt me and type your question into the chat window as we proceed. All right. So let me explain to you what you see on the screen right now. And what you see on the screen is the kind of the homepage, the intranet homepage for the organization. And this is a great example of this company culture content I was talking about just a minute ago. If you notice, I don't have any document libraries. I don't have any kind of collaboration information in here. It's mostly a kind of a one-way street in terms of information. But bear in mind, this is the site that your employees will probably bookmark because that's your intranet homepage. This is the site where most of the time, you know, they will probably visit most of the time. So this is a great site to put that, I guess, company culture information. And in my case, and it doesn't have to look exactly like for you like it does for me, but in my case, I have some company announcements, I have a slideshow, I have useful links for people to click on, I have a calendar of events, company events that is, and then I also, what I have here, you can publish your company Twitter feed, and as well as if you have a blog, you can also include an RSS, you know, from your blog. And once again, this is just an example, but the idea behind this is that this site is really meant to be, for the most part, as a one-way street. The expectation is that your employees will have read-only access to this top-level site, and there might be one or two people who will be managing content on this site. And once again, this is a great place for this company culture type of content. Now, one big mistake that I always find organizations make is that they put document libraries and some sort of tracking lists, essentially the collaboration stuff, right on this page. Please don't do this. The idea behind this, I mean, you can create multiple sites in SharePoint, and we'll go to the actual sites, but this is your document libraries, your collaboration components really belong on subsites. They do not belong on the top level intranet homepage, right? So, so I think, yeah, we'll come back to this side, but let me just explain the other elements of this page, and we will actually reference them down the road as well. So what you see over here, this top level, I was talking about friendly navigation, for example, as an important factor in user adoption. Let me explain to you what you see here on the top. This is what's called global navigation in SharePoint. The official term is top bar, but I also refer to that as a global navigation. And the idea behind this is that as you go through click on different subsites in your organization, let's go to HR site. I'm physically right now on a different I'm on a subsite, so I'm no longer on the home page, but if you notice, my navigation remained the same. My navigation remained the same. And this is a great user adoption technique because I essentially inherit navigation from the parent, from my home page, and this allows me to quickly go back to a different subsite or a different or my home page, back to my home page. Okay. Now the menu. So this is global navigation. The menu on the left is the official term for this in SharePoint is Quick Launch, but I call it local navigation or contextual navigation. And the idea behind this navigation is that it will adjust according to the content found on the specific site you're on. So once again, I'm on the homepage right now, so I link to the stuff, the web parts that you can find on the homepage, but let's come back to my HR site again. So my global navigation stayed the same, but look at this. My left-hand side navigation changed, adjusted. Now it points me to the content that that you will find on the specific site. Now, you have to build this manually. This is not something that occurs automatically. You have to build this navigation manually. But if you adopt this concept, once again, this comes back to the user adoption aspect of of our intranet. You really want to keep whatever methodology you adopt, make sure it's consistent. Because sometimes I come in and I access the quick launch, and it's like 55 links to anything you can imagine in your SharePoint environment. Really, make sure to adopt a very consistent navigation methodology, and this is just one of the ways to do this. Okay. A question just came in from Jocelyn, if this webinar is recorded and if you will be able to view it. Yes, Jocelyn, this webinar is recorded, and I will be posting it on my YouTube channel, as well as my blog site within a couple of days. And for those of you who are subscribed to my newsletter, will also receive a link to this webinar in there as well. So yes, this webinar is recorded, and I will post this within a few days. All right. So okay, so that was that. So that was about navigation. And as I go through the different sites and subsites, you will notice the top link bar kind of staying the same, and my local navigation will change accordingly depending on the site that I'm on. All right, so let's talk about the actual sites right now, the different types of sites. So let's start with, and I want to show you the HR site, and I was just there a second ago. Now, it's quite possible that you will have, depending on the size, of course, of your organization, but it's quite possible that you will have maybe multiple sites for each department or division. And for example, HR is a great example. HR has content that they want to, human resources, they want to share with everyone, like, I don't know, policies, some templates, some benefit information, 401k or something. And at the same time, HR will have their own little space where they can kind of collaborate, and where they will store the confidential information about somebody's salary. All right. So now, here's another mistake that I see many organizations make. They just build one site for a department, and then they build maybe one library that is public and another library that is private. Don't do that. The sites is where you manage your content, and sites is where you manage your security in SharePoint. So if you need to have two different levels of security for the content, create an extra site. I mean, the limit is, like, I forget what the limit is as far as subsites in a site collection, but you really have to try hard to hit that limit. So long story short, let me just demonstrate. So here's my HR employee site. This is the public site that is meant to be shared with everyone. So maybe HR is managing the content on this site, and everyone in the organization is kind of read-only. And this is the site where I can find my policies, benefit information, training, whatever it is. And at the same time, HR might also have an internal team site. This is the confidential team site. This is where HR will manage confidential information about all employees and all the different documents about them. Okay, and really, I mean, my branding is a little bit different, but the most important thing, the most critical, I guess, difference between these two different sites is the security. So this site has a very distinct, security from that other site. And in some cases, look, I mean, maybe in some cases, some of your departments will have just one site per department, but then I see certain departments like HR, like marketing, requiring maybe multiple sites, one for internal collaboration and one for kind of all employees. All right, so that was that concept. And let me show you a couple of more sites. IT, for example, here's an example. You might have a help desk, maybe, I don't know, maybe based on your email, or maybe you have a third-party tool for an IT help desk. Some organizations are successfully utilizing SharePoint. Many of us think about SharePoint as just like Dropbox. It's all about documents. It's not. You can manage any type of content. In this example, I'm utilizing SharePoint to have an internal kind of IT help desk, and essentially behind the scenes, this is an out-of-the-box SharePoint list. This is actually an existing web part you can use, and you can dress it up with your own metadata, etc., to so it makes sense to your organization. And you have seen a sample, I think, on the HR side. What this is right here is something called promoted links, and I have a blog post that I published with detailed instructions on how to set it up. And the idea behind this is that if I want to highlight users' attention, essentially point them to a particular link, you can pretty much build those styles and have them, linked to a specific URL, like it is in this case. When people click on it, they can submit a new help desk request. Okay, just showing you that example. All right, let's keep moving. Let me come back. And once again, as you probably have noticed, though my branding is a little bit off, the navigation kind of stays consistent as I go through all these different sites. Let me just show you another example, and then we'll go into document management. Here's another example, and I work with a number of organizations and some financial organizations, so finance departments, and they have a lot of great data stored in Excel. Now, there are multiple ways to kind of surface up that information in SharePoint. You can actually migrate it to SharePoint list, the Excel data that is, or if you have some cool pivot charts and pivot tables, you can display them just like I'm doing here. And the beauty about this approach is, so I have a pivot table and pivot chart displayed here. The beauty is that I'm an executive, and I come in, maybe I want to see the latest sales metrics. I don't need to download a file from SharePoint and then open it up on my desktop. I can just come in and I can work with Excel. This is me going through the different tabs in Excel, and this is me filtering the data right in Excel without any download. So if you have some pivot tables, pivot charts, the functionality to implement this, and I don't think I have written a blog post on this, the web part is called Excel Web Access. It's an out-of-the-box web part. It's really easy to set up. You have to do some prep work with your Excel documents, but that's about it. It's pretty forward to set up. But if you do have any information in Excel and you want to quickly surface it up to your executives or end users, this is one of the options. All right. Okay, so let's now talk about document management and project management. Now, with document management, of course, you, as I previously stated, it's very likely you are managing your documents on some file shares, some network drives, maybe your personal PCs, maybe Dropbox, whatever it is that you use. Now, it's also quite possible that you're organizing them using folders. That's the technology we had forever, and that's how we're organizing our information, our documents and files. And you can still do that in SharePoint, just like you see me doing here. So here's my document library. And by the way, so you see when I clicked on my document library, this is exactly what I was talking about at the very beginning of the webinar. In your case, the library might look different. At the moment, Microsoft is making all these different changes, and SharePoint document library, it will essentially look exactly like OneDrive. Once again, in case if your library does not yet look like this, it probably will if you're on SharePoint Online pretty soon. So you can still, like I was saying, you can still manage your documents in folders and subfolders. And I don't think I need to show you much in here. I think everyone knows how to organize information in files and folders. We have been doing it forever. All right. But another option where SharePoint really shines, and if you are looking into migrate into SharePoint, where SharePoint really shines is metadata. And let me show you a couple of examples of that. So in this case, I'm going to show you a site for policies. This is the site where I'm organizing my company policies. And this is a document library, and it seems like a normal, I guess, document library. And let me just click on the, okay. So I'm at the root of my document library, and these are my policies, company policies. One thing you will notice is that I don't have any folders in here. I don't have any yellow folders to organize my policies in. What I have instead is something that's called metadata. And think of metadata as essentially a label, a tag that provides me additional information about the document or file in this case. I always kind of, when I explain metadata to my clients, I always refer, I always give an Amazon example. When you go shopping on Amazon for shoes and you are maybe typing into the keyword men's shoes, on the left-hand side of your Amazon search, you have all these different filters. You can filter by brand, by size, by color, by price, review, whatever it is. Same idea with files. The idea is that you tag, as users upload the documents, they don't put them into folders. Instead, they put them, they tag them. So in this case, I uploaded a PDF document, and I tagged the information, and I specified, okay, this document is a policy, and I chose one of the fields. What is the document? Now, I said it's owned by finance, and you can either select a choice from the field, or you can type it in, and it recognizes what you're typing in. Because this is a policy, I said every policy has some sort of expiration or renewal date. So I provided that piece of information, and then who it is intended for, who needs to read my policy. So essentially a group of, I guess, individuals. And you can customize. I mean, this is just an example. In your case, you can customize it any way you want. Yes, and all of these fields, all of these document types, all of this, essentially all of these pieces of metadata, this is all custom information, custom metadata you create yourself. Obviously, there is no one-size-fits-all. It's really unique to your particular organization, to your particular, I guess, business model. So once you tag all of these documents, the idea is that now I can organize and I can view and search just like I'm doing shopping on Amazon. So first of all, because I'm not restricted by any folders, I can say, you know what, I hate to see this flat list of files. This is not good. I can organize them by maybe policy owner. Who owns this policy? So I can have a view for that. Here it is. So now my documents are nicely organized, and I group them by policy, and I group them by document type as well. Okay? And you can easily get to this information. Or I can also do something like this. I don't, need, I just know what I'm looking for, and just like shopping on Amazon, I say, you know what, just give me all the documents that belong to legal department, all the policy documents that belong to legal department. And here it is. And it automatically filters now the results based on my search. Now, if you are migrating from folders to metadata, it's very, very unlikely, and I would strongly discourage that you convert everything to metadata. I'm a big advocate of metadata, but I do not encourage that you convert absolutely everything. Typically, the more candidate, the more I guess users you have collaborating, the more users you have searching for information, the better candidate it becomes for metadata. If you have 2 or 3 people working in a single department and they're happy with folders, just leave it as is. I mean, otherwise they will hate you and they will hate SharePoint. So only convert to metadata what really needs to be converted. If you have multiple contributors, many contributors, if you really have problems with file duplication, or if you have problems finding stuff, then it's probably a great candidate for metadata. here's another example of, I was talking about project management, and we'll talk about metadata a little more there. But lots of organizations are using SharePoint. When they switch to SharePoint, they use it for project management. You might be maybe using, I don't know, third-party tools, or maybe you are just organizing your documents in files and folders, and that's how you manage your projects. But the SharePoint, in my opinion, is really great for project management. And I have a whole separate webinar on this specific topic where I provide all the different options and ways you can manage your projects on SharePoint. So I'm going to be kind of very brief here. And if you're interested in learning more about project management in SharePoint, I encourage that you register for my upcoming webinar. But what you see here, what you see on the screen right here, is essentially the kind of the PMO, Project Management Office dashboard. And this is where you have a list of all the projects within your organization. So this is kind of a central control panel for you to access all the different projects. And once again, I was talking about sites in the beginning, how you really need to manage your content at the site level. So same approach applies here. Do not put, just create a folder or a document library for a project. Make sure you create a separate site for each and every project, and I'll show that an example to you in a second. So here's my dashboard, and I don't have that many projects, but you can filter your projects by any metadata that you wish. And here I have a link to my project team site. So let's click that. And here is, in a second, once it loads, here is an example of a team site. I do have a blog post on how to create a project team site from scratch. I do have a URL in my handout. So in case if you're interested how to build this yourself, just feel free to reference my blog post in my handout. Now, so here's an example of a project team site. Once again, I'm not going to spend too much time, but the idea is that you're not locking yourself into just the documents, into folders, files, and folders. I have a document library to manage my documents. I have a separate task list that I can synchronize with my Microsoft project. I have a calendar. I have team contacts. I even manage my risks in SharePoint. And I can have a discussion board, the social aspect to my project management. Okay, so the idea is that you create a site template for each and every project, and next time somebody requires a new site, you just create it based on your template. And this way, you bring in some consistency. You have a common template used by everyone within your organization, and everything is consistent from SharePoint standpoint. Everything is consistent from project management and project management methodology. And briefly, want to show you an example of, so I'm using, as you probably have noticed, I'm using metadata in here. And you can see in this case, I remember that other library I showed you, it still had the old look and feel. Well, guess what? In this case, this particular library got switched to the new look and feel. And it's pretty much the same idea. I have all of my documents. I have them tagged according to their document type, document owner, project phase, and business line. And the beauty about this approach is that first of all, think about project management. I might be a member of 5 different projects. And the beauty about this is that it's the same exact approach used everywhere in terms of organizing information. I don't have, one way, folders on one side and no folders on another. It's very, very consistent. Everyone is using the same methodology to organize information. Everything is using the same metadata to organize information. And because everything is tagged, here is the beauty of metadata. I can view my documents and organize them any way I wish by any piece of metadata that I have. And this is all just the different views on my document library. I'm still going against the same document library, just viewing information differently. With folders, you're kind of stuck. Whoever created that initial folder structure, that's what everyone has to follow. So you obviously do not have that luxury when you're using folders. Okay, let's see. I think I have a question from Mariva. Is there any an easy way to move documents between sites? No. Well, it depends, Mariva. So there is kind of really no easy way. The easiest way to do this would be to open a library, both libraries from different sites in Windows Explorer, and you can move those files that way. With that being said, this method only works if you are using files and folders. If you are using metadata, and let's say I wanted to move files from this site to a different site, unfortunately, all my metadata would be lost. And for that, if you really want to retain it, you would need to use a migration tool, a third-party migration tool. All right. Once again, folks, feel free to type your questions into the chat window. For now, I will just proceed with the demonstration. So we covered projects, project sites, and like I said, if you're interested if this topic is of interest, I have several webinars on project management, so feel free to register for those down the road. Now, external. Let me show you the external sites. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that most organizations these days, if you maybe need to share something externally, some folks just open up maybe a personal Dropbox account, and this way they get outside of the firewall and they can easily share, etc. In SharePoint, you can easily share externally as well. With that being said, there are certain best practices you need to follow. And let me click. I don't really have my external site set up, but the idea I want to show you this to you is that, let me come back to my home page. So the idea behind external sharing, the best practice in SharePoint is that anything that you're looking to share externally really needs to reside on a separate site collection. So if, for example, my intranet, my department, my operational site, my whatever policies, procedures, confidential stuff resides in my intranet, anything that is meant to be shared externally really needs to reside in a separate site collection. So watch what will happen to this address URL when I click on external. And as you can see, I'm physically, this is not exciting, I just kind of left it as is, but the URL has changed. And I did it on purpose because you really do not want to put your externally shared content into your intranet. Let me explain to you why. You configure external sharing at the site collection level. So when you open up your whole intranet to external sharing, well, guess what? Now you are in danger of users sharing each and every subsite externally without even you knowing about this. So I think this is the last thing you would want is some employee or intern sharing some HR site or IT or any subsite for that matter with their Facebook friends. So to prevent that, if you need to share anything externally, make sure the best practice is, and I believe I included the blog post on this as well in my handout, make sure to set up a totally separate site collection, call it whatever, external, and that's where any externally shared stuff will go. Do not externally share your intranet. Definitely do not put yourself into this risk. Let's see. Okay, another aspect I think I got a few questions. Let me see. A question from Boris. Hi, Boris. Can we use content and structure to move files between subsites? Yes, Boris, you can, but if I recall it correctly, you do need, I think you need to enable publishing features. So this particular example, you're talking about movement of sites and document libraries between sites. Yes, you can do it using content and structure, but if I'm not mistaken, you need to enable publishing features on your site collection. And usually when that happens, when you enable publishing features, you really need to, this has all this other drawbacks like inability to create site templates anymore. So you are absolutely correct, but if I'm not mistaken, this only works in certain cases. So Question from Tabby. Hi, Tabby. How about sharing documents between divisions within your organization? Yeah, within divisions, Tabby. So as long as I was just talking about external sharing. So within divisions, it's not a problem. So let's say you have multiple divisions, and maybe I call them departments. But as long as they are internal employees, there is no, I guess, harm, right, if you will, about sharing documents internally. I was specifically talking about external sharing. It's one thing when somebody from another division has access to your site. It's another thing when it's somebody's Facebook friend has access to an internal site. So yeah, essentially at the end of the day, let me just give you an example. For example, I'm on HR team side. At the end of the day, you will control everything through security groups. So if I go to security group for this particular site, at the end of the day, whoever needs to have access to the site will be inside one of the security groups. And actually, you know what? Let me just give you a better example. This was kind of maybe a bad example. So here we go. Here is my project team site. And depending on how you want to share, who you want to share it with, your individuals will be in one of those groups, and this is the permission that they will have on their sites. Once again, it's one thing if you are sharing internally. It's completely another thing if you are sharing externally. So for external sharing, you by all means set up a separate site collection, but if you need to share your content kind of internally just with a different division, I probably wouldn't go through the pain of setting up a totally separate site collection. Probably a separate subsite would be as good as well. All right, so let me come back. I just want to finish off some things before we go to Q&A. This is another aspect, employee directory. So let me click on my employee directory here. And what you see here is actually what's called Office Delve. Now, some organizations are using some fancy methods to store the employee information. You might be just using an Excel spreadsheet that you constantly update all the time. I always encourage organizations to utilize what you see on the screen. This is Office 365 Delve. This is relatively new functionality. It's available to you, and it's still kind of evolving. It's still changing, but it's there. It's available. It's free. It's included in your plan. And if some people, when it's kind of hard to define what it is, I always tell people it's a kind of a mix between employee directory and Facebook. But the idea behind this is that each employee that is in your I guess Active Directory, or each employee in your licensed employee in your Office 365 environment, they get one of these pages. And the beauty about this page is that, first of all, it provides a picture of employee. It provides their contact information. You also can do an org chart, and put and also pretty much build an org chart in Delve, and very easy to do, and I published a blog post on that. And it also shows my latest activity. So just like Facebook, it's almost like a feed. So if you're accessing maybe my profile in Office 365 Delve, first of all, you can easily find my contact information. You can see how I look like if I am a new employee and you're setting up a meeting with me, and you can see what I have been up to, the documents I have been maybe working on recently. So it's almost like I said, employee directory plus Facebook are kind of combined together. And this is still evolving, so it probably will look a little bit different down the road. But the beauty about this approach, you really don't need to build anything else. You really don't need to maintain another spreadsheet, because once let's say a new employee is onboarded, they start working for an organization. Well, as soon as they're set up with an Office 365 license, as soon as they're set up with Active Directory, guess what? They get this page, and you can either you can actually set it up so they can edit their own profiles, or you can do it for them as an IT admin. And I don't need to maintain and circulate any more spreadsheets and with contact information or anything like that. If I'm looking for somebody in my organization, it's as easy just as typing the information into the search window and seeing the contact information and who they report to and their latest activities. So I definitely encourage that you use that. Once again, it's the easiest, very easy to set up. You really don't need to do much. Once you set up a user, and you no longer need to maintain any other third-party systems or maintain some spreadsheets, Excel, Word documents, whatever it is. All right. So let me just come back to my, I don't know if you have seen this. This is the new, for those of you who are on Office 365, there used to be a site style before, right? They renamed it to SharePoint. And this is the kind of shows you all the sites you're following, all the sites you visited frequently. So that's a great way for you to navigate around in the Office 365 environment and come back to maybe the site that you just visited or something. All right, the last thing I want to show you is search. Remember, I was talking about user adoption in the beginning. You do want to build a friendly mechanism for your folks to find information. And there are many, many ways how you set this up. And this might not be phase one of your implementation, because obviously for search to work well, you really need to have content in place. You need to have proper information architecture. You really need to have your metadata figured out. But let me show you what I mean by customized search. So this is how search works out of the box. I'm just going to type in the keyword, and let's see what it finds. And it finds a lot of junk. I typed in the word test, but maybe I was just looking for a document, but look, it gives me all these different results. I don't even know what it is. It doesn't look like a document. It's probably just a complete site that has the word test. Anything that contains the word test, whether it's a document or a folder, it just returns to me. And my filters on the left are no help either. I mean, yes, I can filter it by certain properties, but you know what? Not very friendly. Okay, so here is what you can possibly do once you build your intranet, and this is the customized search that I built for my intranet. So I have this friendly, I guess, window where I ask people to type in what they want, and once again I type in the keyword, and look at this. So first of all, it just gives me all the documents. I customize my search to only look for documents. I told SharePoint, don't give me any other junk, don't show me complete sites or anything that contains the word, just show me the documents. And another thing that I did was I utilized some filters on the left-hand side. In addition to out-of-the-box filters, I also built this custom filters. And I said, yeah, I typed the word policy, but I got, like 21 results, a little bit too much. Maybe I just want to find all the documents that are tagged by users against, human resources. Here we go. Now, all of a sudden, I can find what I'm looking for based on metadata that you or your users have used to tag this document. So this is just an example. There are many, many ways you can set this up, and there is a whole science on how you set it up, but just something to keep in mind when you create your intranet. And the bigger it gets, probably, the more need you will need for something like this, where you just need to have, I guess, a uniform way for searching and, most importantly, finding information. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let me just show you just a couple of more things, or talk to you about a couple of more things, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. So as I promised, hopefully you had a chance to download my handout, and I do have some URLs, and I do explain different things, different essential functionalities that I demonstrated to you today. And if you follow, these are pretty much instructional blog posts. So if you are just starting out, you can pretty much just follow them and build the functionality yourself from scratch. So definitely check it out. And I do publish quite a number of posts during every week and every month. So feel free to check out my website and stay tuned for my blog posts. You can also sign up. I have a newsletter you can sign up for. It's a weekly newsletter, and if you want to be notified about new training, new videos, new webinars, new blog posts, definitely I encourage you to do that as well. So today was just the Intranet Portal webinar. I do have many other webinars that I run periodically, and here's the list that you see on the screen. I do have 2 new webinars. Actually, I have one next week about project and portfolio management using Project Online. This is one of Microsoft's other products that you need to purchase separately, but in case if you are kind of a large PMO, if you're into a serious project management, this webinar is for you. And then I have a new webinar in October about Office 365 groups. This is something I didn't show to you today, but it deserves a separate time slot, a separate webinar. All the great functionalities that are available to you as part of Office 365, and we'll talk about project collaboration you can do with Office 365 groups. So this webinar, I believe, is in October, but if you follow the link, you can see the schedule and register for the future sessions. All right, and then I also offer completely free training, and there is no catch. It's completely free. It's 2 hours long. It's live session led by me. And I offer 2 different sessions. One is for beginners. This is if you're pretty much just new to SharePoint. I have never seen what it is. And I also offer site owner training. This is for power users who need to manage their sites and security and build navigation and all that stuff. I run those sessions every month. The 2 sessions in August are completely full. They're happening tomorrow and on Friday, but don't be disappointed. I mean, they're definitely very popular. I do have schedule, I think, running through October right now, so feel free to just go to my website and register for those sessions. Now, if you have few employees from your organization, that's great. If you want to have many employees attend the sessions, I suggest that you consider paid version of the same training, and this is it. The cost is just $199. It's a flat fee. I don't care how many users you have. You just pay one flat fee, and you can have as many users as you can. And we can schedule it at the time that is convenient to you. And you get many other perks like very detailed user guide as well as video recording. So once again, check out my site, and all the information is there. And here is my contact information. If you want to subscribe to my newsletter or follow me on my social media or YouTube channel, feel free to follow any one of those links. And let's see how we're doing on time. Yeah, I think we have a few minutes left. So at this point, I want to see if there are any questions related to anything you have seen here today. So let me see. Okay, what is the best question from Tabby? What is the best practice for sharing documents between departments? Just share individual documents, create a library, create a subsite. Well, Tabby, there are many ways you can do that. Typically, let me give you an example. Let's go to my project site. So let's say I want to share a document with someone. So one of the options is for you to share the whole site. And of course, if you share the whole site by using the share button, if you share the whole site with someone, it will obviously share the whole site and they will have access to everything. Now, what happens behind the scenes, this is probably the preferred approach. If you want to share a document with someone, what happens behind the scenes, the permission to this document for this particular document is broken. So if I just decide to share this single document with somebody, if I decide to share it with someone within my organization, it breaks the permissions for this particular document from the rest of the site. And what might end up happening is that you might have a site maybe with 2,000 documents, and imagine each of the documents having its own unique permission. Now, if you don't care who will have access to the documents, that's one thing. But at the end of the day, you want probably to control who the documents are shared with. And when you set your security, when you share it at the site level, it's much cleaner to maintain rather than maintaining 2,000 separate permissions. So really, it depends. It's obviously very easy to share individual documents, but in some cases, maybe it just you will be better off sharing complete sites. Okay, so really depends. There is no right or wrong answer, and hopefully I answered your question. But it really depends on the scenario. Depends on on amount of information you're sharing. Are you sharing just one document? Are you sharing and it's just kind of a one-off, or you're sharing more than just one document, etc. So hopefully I answered your question. All right, folks. Any other questions? Any other? Great. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Margaret. Glad you enjoyed the session. So I will stick around for another maybe minute or two and see if there are any other questions. And like I said, the video recording will be available. We'll try to post it by this weekend, and we'll definitely, you will see the URL on my blog. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Teresa, Diane, and Jody. Thank you. Just got a bunch of thank yous, which is always nice on Wednesday. So happy you enjoyed the webinar. Okay, I don't think I see any other questions, and I know everyone is busy these days. So thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your time today, and I hope to see you in my future webinar. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.